Hello everyone, my name is Mike Kimball and I'm going to do my first presentation on hurricanes. A little bit of background about myself. I'm a former broadcast meteorologist. I've worked in television stations in Atlanta, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, Jackson, Mississippi, and in Monroe, Louisiana. And I've been transitioning into the emergency management field, and currently I'm a senior in the emergency management program at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. So it's kind of fitting that I would do my first project on hurricanes, and here we go. This is the first of 3 presentations. Like I said, the first presentation, I'm going to give you some basic information on hurricanes, where they form, when they form, and the kind of damage they do, and the areas that are have the greatest risk for a landfalling hurricane. The second presentation is going to be more focused on the damage these storms cause. I'm going to really kind of center in on Hurricane Katrina in 2005 that made landfall in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm sure you remember all the devastation that caused with the levees breaking and the city being inundated with under 20 feet of water in some locations. The problem was there were plenty of people left stranded in that water. We're going to talk about why that happened and everything else. And in the final presentation, we're going to talk about how to prepare for these storms. And even Edgar Holloway is going to be nice enough and put a hurricane kit together for us. So I hope you'll enjoy that. So let's talk about the damage these storms cause. The primary threat from a hurricane is when it makes landfall. Storm surge. That is a wall of water that can be as high as 25 feet high, and that's exactly what the Mississippi Gulf Coast saw when Hurricane Katrina made landfall back in 2005. And it will completely obliterate everything along the Gulf Coast. Now, as these storms move inland, they begin to weaken just a little bit, and then the primary threat becomes flooding. As you can see, 5, 10, 15, 20 inches of rain can fall from these storms. Even more if they stall over your area. So flooding, storm surge, wind damage, and even isolated tornadoes are the primary threat from these systems. So now, hurricanes, what do they need to form? Well, they need a couple of ingredients. One, calm winds aloft. They need a very light wind so these thunderstorms can actually wrap around the center of circulation. But the number one ingredient is warm water, temperatures over 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is an absolute necessity for hurricanes to form. And if you notice, hurricane season begins on June 1st and it runs all the way through the end of November. And that's, if you notice, during the summer months where the temperatures are a little bit warmer. And it takes a little time for the waters to warm up, especially out in the open Atlantic. But in June and July, the primary threats and the primary area for hurricane development would primarily center in the Gulf of Mexico down into the northwestern Caribbean Sea. And as we go into August and September, into the peak of hurricane season, this area expands farther out all the way into the Atlantic Ocean, all the way to the west coast of Africa. Now, this is the primary breeding ground for hurricanes. These are the Cape Verde type storms that form like in August and September. And one of the areas that hurricane meteorologists really watch is the intertropical convergence zone. This is an area right here along that red line here between the African coast and the coast of South America where the trade winds meet. And as these winds run into each other, they're forced upward. And as the air rises, pressures at the surface fall. So when you have lower pressures, you have thunderstorms developing. And if these thunderstorms continue to develop, we might have a tropical disturbance form. Basically, a tropical disturbance is nothing but an area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Now, if they persist for 24 hours, the National Hurricane Center becomes a little concerned and begins to watch the system more carefully. Now, with the Northern Hemisphere, we have the Coriolis force, and the Coriolis force deflects winds to the right. So that's what causes these hurricanes to spin counterclockwise, is the Coriolis force. Now, once this Coriolis force causes the winds to start spinning, then we have a tropical depression form. Tropical depression means there's an area of circulation, a low-level circulation, which you can see out here, south of Lake Charles. And storms begin to rotate around that center of circulation, and the winds increase to around 30 to 35 miles per hour sustained. Now, conditions remain favorable, and the system continues to develop. The thunderstorms will become a little more concentrated around that center of circulation. We'll have a tropical storm form. Tropical storm have winds in excess of 39 miles per hour to 73 miles per hour, and at this point, the storm earns a name. Now, if conditions remain favorable and the system continues to develop, we'll have a hurricane. Hurricanes are Thunderstorms were rotating around the center of circulation, sustained winds of 74 miles per hour or greater, and the classic eye. This is Hurricane Katrina before it made landfall, 24 hours before it made landfall at its peak intensity. At this time, the winds were 175 miles per hour sustained winds with gusts well over 200. And you can see the classic eye right there in the middle. In that eye, the air is sinking and it dries things out. So in the eye, the winds are calm and the sun is shining. Can you believe that or not? But you go 20 or 30 miles outside the eye, you're in the strong winds and the very heavy rainfall. So let's talk about the areas that are most likely to experience a direct hit from a landfalling hurricane. We're going to look at these red dots. Everywhere you see a red dot is the most likely spots for landfall. The Outer Banks of the Carolinas, the southern tip of Florida, the New Orleans area, extending over into the Florida Panhandle. Those are the primary areas that you have to watch for landfalling hurricanes, although you can't rule them out anywhere else along the Atlantic and Gulf Coast. Well, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Once again, the second presentation is going to be on the damage that these storms cause. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I'll talk to you later.